Welcome, curious minds, to ACE your RES exam key topic deep dive series. Have you ever found yourself just scratching your head, maybe staring at a property listing, or worse, your RES exam notes, and you see terms like gross plot ratio or bonus GFA, and just think, what is that?
Oh, absolutely. It can feel like trying to crack some kind of secret code, can it?
Exactly, like a code that unlocks, I don't know, the future of a building or something. But, you're definitely not alone if you feel that way.
That's for sure.
But here's the thing. These aren't just dry technical terms buried in regulations. They are genuinely the keys to unlocking a property's real potential. And maybe more importantly for you listening, keys to confidently, nailing your real estate salesperson exam here in Singapore.
Exactly. You really have to think of these concepts as like the fundamental DNA of urban planning and property value in Singapore.
DNA. I like that.
Yeah, because if you're serious about navigating this market, maybe you want to be an agent or a smart investor, or honestly, just understand the city you live in, mastering these terms is, well, it's non-negotiable.
Right.
They literally dictate what can be built, how much can be built on any piece of land. And that directly impacts its value, its potential, every opportunity linked to it.
So our mission today, our goal for this deep dive, is really to equip you, our dedicated learner, with a super clear understanding. We want you to know what these terms actually mean, why they're so incredibly important in Singapore's, let's face it, really thoughtful urban planning.
But it's very thoughtful, yes.
How they impact property development in a big way, and the nitty-gritty details of these incentive schemes, because those can seriously change a site's value and what you can do with it.
They really can. It's where the extra potential often lies.
Think of this as maybe your express lane to getting those aha moments you need. Not just for the exam, though that's huge, but for actually looking at a property and seeing its real story.
Precisely.
Yeah.
We want to help you connect those dots. We've gone through the latest URA and BCA documents, looked at some expert analysis to give you something comprehensive, but hopefully really digestible.
Okay, sounds good. So shall we grab our metaphorical hard hats, as you say, and dig into the foundation?
Let's do it. We're better to start.
Absolutely. Let's lay down that bedrock first. Plot ratio and gross floor area. GFA.
The dynamic duo.
Exactly. In real estate development, you really can't grasp one without getting a handle on the other, can you?
Not really, no. They're intrinsically linked.
Okay, so let's kick things off with plot ratio. It sounds a bit intimidating, maybe something out of an engineering textbook.
It could sound that way, yeah.
But at its core, it's actually, quite straightforward, isn't it?
It really is. Fundamentally, it's the concept that determines how intensely a piece of land can be used.
Yeah.
It's the number, the ratio, that tells you the maximum gross floor area, the GFA, you're allowed to build on that particular site.
So it's the how much intensity number?
That's a great way to put it. Imagine you have a piece of land. The plot ratio tells you how much floor area you can stack onto it, essentially.
Okay.
So more formally, it's derived simply by dividing the allowed gross floor area by the total site area.
Ah, the calculation.
Yeah. So if a plot of land has a plot ratio of, say, 2.0, that means for every 1 square meter of land, you can build 2 square meters of gross floor area.
Right. Double the land area and floor space.
Exactly. It's a direct and pretty powerful indicator of how much building volume you can achieve.
And this number, it's not just plucked out of thin air, is it? It serves a really massive purpose in urban planning, especially here.
Oh, absolutely not random at all. It's a critical strategic tool for authorities like the URA, the Urban Redevelopment Authority.
Right.
By carefully setting these ratios for different zones, different areas, they can very precisely guide the intensity of development.
Guiding development. How so?
Well, it allows them to effectively control population density, manage things like traffic flow, ensure there's enough infrastructure, schools, parks, transport, and ultimately prevent overcrowding.
Which is obviously super important in Singapore.
Incredibly crucial for a land-scarce place, yes. It really shapes the character of our different neighborhoods. You know, why some areas are low-rise and others are full of skyscrapers. Plot ratio is a big part of that story.
Okay, so for someone listening, maybe studying for the RES exam or just curious about a property, how do they actually find the plot ratio? Knowing where to look must be key for the exam, too.
Excellent point. URA has actually made this quite transparent. Their public tools, especially URA Space, are fantastic for this.
URA Space, okay.
Yeah, you can literally just type in an address or find a location on the map, and boom, it shows you the designated plot ratio for that property.
That's handy.
It is. We've seen examples used, like Pacific Mansions being cited with plot ratio of 2.8. It's all there on the platform. An indispensable resource, really, for anyone in the real estate field. Instant authoritative data.
Now, these numbers, they're not set in stone forever, are they? You mentioned the master plan, which dictates these things. That gets reviewed, updated.
That's a very important point. It highlights how dynamic urban planning is. Plot ratios are reviewed and potentially updated as part of the master plan review cycle, which typically happens every 5 years.
Every 5 years.
Roughly, yes. We saw updates in Master Plan 2014. The next cycle would have been around 2019-2020, looking towards 2025 perhaps for the next major iteration. It gives URA the chance to adapt to the city's evolving needs.
So they can change. Can they go up or down?
They can. What's particularly interesting, maybe for RES candidates to note, is that increases, especially for privately owned residential land, tend to be quite selective.
Oh, not automatic.
Not at all. They're usually strategic, targeted increases. And while it's rarer, there have been instances where plot ratios were actually revised downwards.
Really? Downwards?
Yes, examples like Hillview House and the Lamsoon Industrial Building saw reductions in the Draft Master Plan 2013. It underscores that urban planning isn't static. It's a live process, constantly responding to growth, conservation needs, infrastructure capacity, all sorts of things.
A living blueprint. Okay, that makes sense. Hashtag tag 1.2. What is gross floor area, GFA? Okay, so if plot ratio tells us the intensity or the potential, how much we can build relative to the land, then GFA is the actual how much itself, right? The total area.
Precisely. Gross floor area, GFA, is essentially the total constructed floor area within a building.
Measured how?
It's measured typically from the outer walls.
Yeah.
And critically, it encompasses all the covered floor spaces and usable areas.
All usable spaces. Like what?
It's everything, basically. The residential units themselves, any commercial shop spaces, recreational facilities like gyms or function rooms, plus all the common areas, lobbies, corridors, lift landings, even service areas like M&E rooms in some cases, though some might be excluded or treated differently under specific rules, which we'll touch on. But broadly, it's the total built-up floor space.
Got it. So going back to the calculation, if I know the plot ratio and I know the size of the land, getting the maximum allowed GFA is just multiplication.
It's exactly that straightforward. You multiply the approved plot ratio by the site area.
Nice and simple.
Yep. So let's use that example again. Plot ratio of 2.8, land area of 100,000 square feet. Your maximum allowable GFA is 2.8 times 100,000.
Which is 280,000 square feet.
280,000 square feet of gross floor area. Simple math, but as you said, with really powerful implications for what can be developed.
And the significance of having a higher GFA, well, it seems pretty obvious for developers, right? More space equals more money.
Absolutely. It's often seen as the primary revenue driver. A higher GFA means more residential units to sell or more commercial space to lease out.
Right.
This directly impacts the project's potential scale, its profitability, and ultimately its market value. For most developers, understanding how to maximize the permissible GFA within the planning rules is, a fundamental objective.
Maximize GFA. That's the name of the game.
Often, yes. But the smart developer also considers build quality, efficiency, layout, long-term appeal.
Yeah.
Sometimes optimizing GFA isn't just about hitting the maximum number, but using it effectively. But yeah, fundamentally, more GFA usually means more potential value.
Okay, so we've got plot ratio, we've got GFA, but they don't exist in a vacuum, do they? They interact with other really critical things, like how tall the buildings can be and how densely packed an area feels. This interplay seems super important, especially for the RES exam. It's like a whole system.
It absolutely is a system. This is where you start seeing the bigger picture of how urban planning shapes our environment. The gross plot ratio, the GPR, serves as a pretty clear guide for density.
How so? Is there a scale?
Yeah, there's a general classification. For instance, a GPR above 2.8 usually points towards very high-density development.
A thing?
Think tall apartment blocks, dense commercial centers.
Okay.
Whereas a GPR down around, say, 1.4 or lower, that typically indicates low density. Maybe landed housing, low-rise condos, more green space.
So the number itself gives you a clue about the character of the neighborhood.
Exactly. It guides everything from, how much traffic to expect to the kind of amenities needed, public transport links.
Yeah.
It's a shorthand for the intended urban fabric.
But it's not just about how many people are packed in horizontally, but also vertically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does GPR affect building height?
Directly. There's a strong correlation. Again, these are general guidelines, but they're pretty consistent.
Like,
well, a GPR of 1.4 often corresponds to a maximum height of about 5 stories.
mm-hmm.
A GPR of 2.8 can allow buildings up to maybe 36 stories.
Wow. big difference.
And if your GPR goes above 2.8, you're generally looking at permission for buildings taller than 36 stories. So high GPR often means high rise.
So it shapes the skyline?
It shapes the skyline, ensures light and air reach the streets, manages visual impact. It's all interconnected.
But there's always a but, isn't there? Can you always build right up to the maximum height or GFA allowed by the plot ratio? Or are there other things that can limit you?
The real-world constraints. This is a crucial caveat, especially for anyone assessing development potential. The answer is no. You can't always achieve the maximum theoretical potential.
Why not? What gets in the way?
Various practical and regulatory factors. A classic example in Singapore is height restrictions near airports and air bases.
Right. Paya Lebar, Seletar, Changi.
Exactly. Developments in those areas often have much lower allowable building heights and sometimes lower effective plot ratios because of airspace safety requirements, regardless of what the base master plan GPR might suggest.
Makes sense. What else?
Other things could be the specific shape or topography of the site. An awkward shape might make it hard to maximize the floor area efficiently. Proximity to heritage buildings or conservation areas can impose limits. Infrastructure capacity, like maybe the local drains or power supply, could be a constraint. Even things like ensuring adequate distance between buildings. Lots of factors.
So the number on the URA map is the starting point, not the final answer.
Precisely. It's the theoretical maximum, subject to other planning controls and site-specific constraints.
So tying this all together for our RES candidates listening, why is understanding this whole interplay, GPR, GFA, height, density, constraints, why is it so absolutely vital for them, for the exam and beyond?
It's vital for several key reasons. Firstly, assessing potential. If you're looking at a site for redevelopment, maybe an en-bloc sale, you need to understand the realistic buildable GFA and height, not just the theoretical max. That's what developers will base their bids on.
Okay, realistic potential.
Secondly, understanding the neighborhood. Knowing the density and likely building heights helps you advise clients on the living environment, the views, the general feel of an area, which obviously impacts desirability and value.
Right, client advisory.
And thirdly, the exam itself. These connections are frequently tested. They don't just ask for definitions, they give you scenarios. You need to apply this knowledge to figure out development possibilities, limitations, implications. You need that holistic, practical understanding.
So it's about seeing the whole picture, like you said, understanding the system, not just memorizing the parts.
It's exactly it. Seeing how all these planning tools work together to shape the city.
You know, just when you think you've got GFA sorted, the rules evolve. Let's talk about something relatively recent, URA's harmonization rule. What was the deal with that? Why did they need to harmonize GFA calculations? Hashtag 2.1 introduction to the rule.
Well, it's interesting. The harmonization rule was really about bringing more clarity and consistency to the market.
Clarity and consistency. Sounds good.
Yeah. Its main goal was to standardize how gross floor area is calculated across different types of land use. Before this, there could be, let's say, subtle differences in how GFA was counted for a residential project versus a commercial one or an industrial one.
Ah, so different rules for different uses.
Sometimes, yes, or perhaps slightly different interpretations. This could lead to, well, confusion, maybe inconsistencies, sometimes inefficiencies for both developers trying to plan and URA trying to regulate. So the idea was to create one single clear standard, a unified language for GFA, if you like.
Okay, a level playing field for GFA calculation. When did this actually happen? Timing is always important.
It kicked in relatively recently. The effective date was June 1st, 2023.
June 2023.
Okay, so it applies to all development applications submitted to URA on or after that date, and slightly earlier for land sales, for government land sale, GLS, and industrial GLS, IGLS sites. It applies if they were launched on or after September 4th, 2022.
Right. So any new projects in the pipeline now are definitely operating under this rule.
Absolutely. It's the current standard.
Yeah.
Hashtag 2.2, key features of the harmonization rule.
So how did they achieve this harmonization? What are the key changes, the main features of this rule that people, especially RES candidates, need to know?
I'd say the biggest feature is the introduction of unified calculation standards. That's the core of it. One single methodology for calculating GFA now applies across the board.
One method fits all.
Pretty much. This significantly cuts down on those previous discrepancies between different development types. It creates a clearer, more predictable framework for everyone involved. Less guesswork, more certainty.
That does sound like an improvement. What else did the rule clarify? Did it change what gets counted in GFA?
Yes, and this is a really important part. Clarified exclusions and inclusions. This is where some things changed quite significantly.
Oh, Like what?
Well, the refined definitions now explicitly include certain areas in the GFA calculation that might have been treated differently before or were maybe in a gray area.
Such as,
Things like certain mechanical spaces, vertical circulation areas, we're talking staircases, lift shafts.
staircases and lifts. They count towards GFA now.
Under the harmonized rules, yes, they are generally included in the GFA computation. Also, certain void spaces within buildings might now be included depending on their nature and location.
Wow. Okay. That seems like it could add up.
It definitely can. The idea is to get a more accurate picture of the building's total constructed area, its actual bulk. Before, some of these essential spaces might have been excluded, potentially understating the building's overall size or intensity.
So, including stairwells, M&E spaces, what knock-on effect does that have? How does it impact the developer's bottom line or their designs?
It has a significant ripple effect. Because more areas are now counted as GFA, it leads to a more precise calculation of the site's utilized plot ratio.
Right, the GFA number might go up even if the physical building is the same.
Exactly. Which means developers really need to reassess their project designs. They have to think harder about space allocation. How efficiently can they design those staircases and lift cores? How can they optimize layouts now that these areas contribute to the total GFA count? It might mean they can fit slightly less sellable area within the same GPR limit.
So it forces more efficient design.
It certainly encourages it. Savvy developers now need to factor this in right from the start when evaluating a site. Land that looked attractive under the old rules might seem tighter now, potentially affecting financial viability or demanding clever design solutions.
And does this push towards any other goals beyond just clarity, maybe sustainability?
That's a good point. Indirectly, yes. By standardizing GFA and making the accounting more comprehensive, it sort of nudges developers towards more efficient use of space and resources. It encourages a more holistic consideration of the building's design, its environmental impact, community needs, aligning better with Singapore's broader goals for sustainable development. Building smarter, essentially. Hashtag 2.3 implications for real estate stakeholders.
Okay, this harmonization sounds like it touches everyone. What does it really mean, practically speaking, for the different players? Let's start with developers.
For developers, the upside is a more straightforward regulatory environment. Clearer rules generally mean, potentially smoother approvals, less time arguing about GFA calculations.
Less ambiguity.
Right. But the flip side is success absolutely depends on them fully understanding and integrating these new definitions into their feasibility studies and designs right from the get-go. Getting it wrong early on could be expensive.
So homework required. What about investors? The people funding these projects or buying properties based on potential.
For investors, it's crucial to reassess their financial models. GFA and plot ratio are fundamental inputs for property valuation. If the effective GFA calculation changes, the perceived value or development potential might change too.
So old assumptions might be outdated.
Exactly. Investors need to align their expectations and projections with these latest URA guidelines to make sound decisions. They need to be aware that developers might be factoring in different GFA figures now, which could influence land bids or project returns.
Okay. And what about the architects and planners, the ones actually designing these buildings?
For architects and planners, it really demands adaptation. They need to design within these new rules. This means rethinking how spaces are configured, really optimizing layouts to make every square meter count, especially those newly included areas like vertical circulation.
A design challenge.
Or an opportunity for innovation. It pushes them to find creative solutions, maybe develop more efficient core designs, or find new ways to deliver functionality within a potentially tighter GFA budget. Those who embrace it can really differentiate themselves. Hashtag 2.4, the role of technology in compliance.
Now, navigating all these rules, especially new ones, technology must play a part, right? How is tech helping people comply with this harmonization rule and just generally in modern development?
Oh, hugely. Technology is pretty much indispensable now. A key example is building information modeling, or BIM.
BIM. Heard a lot about that.
Right. BIM basically allows you to create a highly detailed, data-rich, 3D digital model of the building. Because the model contains all the spatial information, calculating GFA accurately according to the latest rules becomes much, much easier and more reliable.
So the computer does the heavy lifting on the calculations.
It helps automate it and ensures consistency. You can visualize exactly what's included, measure areas precisely. It saves a massive amount of time compared to manual calculations and drastically reduces the risk of errors and compliance headaches down the line. It's like having a digital X-ray of your GFA.
Very useful. And what about understanding the bigger picture, the market impact, the financial side?
That's where data analytics comes into play. Tools and platforms are emerging that help developers analyze market trends, model project ROI under the new GFA rules, and understand the full financial implications.
So crunching the numbers on a bigger scale.
Exactly. Using data allows for more informed, strategic decisions. Is this site still viable? What's the optimal design strategy? How does this align with market demand and URA's goals? Data helps answer those questions, turning compliance from just a hurdle into potentially a strategic advantage.
Working smarter, like we said. Okay, that gives a really clear picture of the harmonization rule and its impact. Very relevant for the RES exam, I imagine.
Definitely. Understanding the why and the how of GFA calculation is fundamental.
Okay, we've covered the base rules for GFA, the standard calculations, the harmonization. Now for the really exciting part, maybe. Bonus GFA incentive schemes. This is where developers can potentially build more than the master plan strictly allows, like extra credit. Hashtag tag 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 3.1, the concept of bonus GFA.
That's a perfect way to think about it, extra credit. Bonus GFA allows developers to build additional floor area over above the baseline gross plot ratio set out in the master plan, the MPGPR.
Why would URA allow that?
It's a strategic tool. URA uses these schemes to incentivize specific types of development or encourage beneficial practices that align with Singapore's wider goals, things like sustainability, productivity, community benefits, or urban rejuvenation. It's a carrot to nudge developers in a desired direction.
A carrot. I like that. So you do something good, you get a bit more GFA. There must be a limit, right? You can't just keep adding bonuses indefinitely.
Absolutely. Critical point, especially for the exam. There is a cap. The total cumulative bonus GFA from all the different schemes the project might qualify for cannot exceed 10% above the master plan GPR.
10%. That's the ceiling.
That's the hard ceiling for most schemes. Even if a site theoretically qualifies for, say, 15% through various bonuses, they'll only get up to that 10% maximum. It ensures these incentives encourage good practices without totally busting the overall density plans for an area.
Okay, 10% cap. Got it. Now here's something I've heard trip people up. If a developer gets bonus GFA for a project, does that extra GFA become part of the site's permanent entitlement? Like if the building is torn down and redeveloped 30 years later, do they start with that higher GFA baseline?
Excellent question, and the answer is a clear no. This is super important. Bonus GFA does not form part of the site's future development potential upon redevelopment.
Ah, it's temporary.
It's tied to that specific development which fulfilled the incentive conditions. When the site is eventually redeveloped down the road, the allowable GFA reverts back to whatever the prevailing master plan gross plot ratio is at that future time. The bonus is a one-time reward, not a permanent upgrade to the land's rights.
Okay, that's a crucial distinction for valuation, especially for older buildings that might have benefited from past schemes. Don't assume the bonus is forever.
Exactly. Always check the current master plan GPR for future potential. Hashtag 3.2. Built Environment Transformation. BE Transformation. GFA Incentive Scheme.
All right, let's dive into one of these specific carrots, the Built Environment Transformation GFA Incentive Scheme. The name itself sounds pretty ambitious, transforming how we build.
It really is ambitious. This scheme is all about pushing the construction industry forward. Its main objective is to encourage developers to adopt higher standards based on the Construction Industry Transformation Map, the ITM.
ITM, what areas does that cover?
We're talking about major advancements in three key areas: digitalization, productivity, and sustainability. It's a national push to make our building sector more technologically advanced, efficient, and environmentally friendly. It's jointly managed by BCA, Building and Construction Authority, and URA.
So who can actually apply for this bonus GFA? Is it for any project?
The eligibility is fairly specific. It generally applies to new buildings or major addition and alterations. A&A works on private sites that have a GFA of at least 5,000 square meters.
5,000 square meters minimum.
That's the general threshold. Smaller sites might be considered, but only on a case-by-case basis, and they'd need to show really significant outcomes. Also, certain government land sale, GLS sites, launched before March 31st, 2022, are eligible.
And what kind of developments?
Residential.
Commercial?
It's quite broad. It covers residential like condos and flats, non-residential, commercial, industrial, office, retail, business parks, hotels, hospitals, institutional buildings, and mixed-use developments too.
Yeah, okay. So what's the actual bonus? How much extra GFA are we talking about? And is there a time limit to apply?
For private sites meeting the criteria, developers can get up to 3% bonus GFA under this scheme.
3%.
For those eligible GLS sites launched before March 2022, It's up to 2% bonus GFA.
All right.
And yes, there's a deadline. The scheme is open for new proposals submitted up until November 23, 2026.
November 2026. Good to know.
And remember, this 2% or 3% still contributes towards that overall 10% cap we talked about, if the project also qualifies for other bonuses.
Right, the cap always applies. So to get this 3%, developers need to hit those ITM outcomes. Digitalization, productivity, sustainability. What does that actually mean in practice? What do they have to do?
That's where the details are crucial. It's quite rigorous. For digitalization, they need to fully embrace integrated digital delivery, or IDD. This means using digital processes throughout the project lifecycle design, fabrication, construction, asset management. Specifically, they need to implement at least 5 essential IDD use cases and use a common data environment CDE platform that follows specific data standards. It's about smart, connected construction.
Okay, high-tech planning and management. What about productivity?
Productivity focuses on using advanced construction methods to build faster and more efficiently. This involves significant use of prefabrication technologies, things like PPVC, prefabricated prefinished volumetric construction.
Like building with Lego blocks, almost.
Sort of. Manufacturing modules off-site and assembling them. Also, prefab MEP systems, pre-assembled mechanical, electrical, and plumbing components. For offices, structural steel use is encouraged. The goal is a substantial productivity improvement, often over 30% compared to older methods. And for residential projects, they also need to achieve a good quality mark, QM score, ensuring speed doesn't sacrifice quality.
Right, build faster, smarter, but still build well. And the third one, sustainability.
Sustainability sets a very high bar. Developers must achieve the Green Mark Platinum Super Low Energy SLE certification.
Platinum SLE, that's tough.
It is. And specifically, they need exemplary performance under the maintainability section of the latest Green Mark framework, GM 2021, meaning scoring at least 10 out of 15 points there. So it's not just about building an energy-efficient building initially, but one that's designed to be easy and efficient to maintain throughout its life, minimizing long-term environmental impact.
Wow, that's a serious commitment across the board. Getting this bonus GFA isn't just filling in a form then. What's the process like?
Definitely not just a form. It's a multi-stage process. First, the applicant submits their concept plan outlining how they'll achieve the ITM outcomes to BCA. If BCA issues a letter of acceptance, LOA, then they have 6 months to submit the formal development application, including the GFA calculations showing the bonus, to URA.
And does BCARA just take their word for it then?
Not at all. There's ongoing monitoring. Developers have to submit progress reports every 6 months during construction. And then there are final deliverables needed at the TOP, temporary occupation permit stage, and even 1 year after TTOP. This includes final verification of the Green Mark, SLE, IDD implementation reports, productivity data, QM assessments, etc.
They really track it. And I heard there's a financial guarantee involved too, a security deposit.
Yes, that's a key part of ensuring commitment. Developers have to provide a security deposit, usually a banker's guarantee or performance bond. The initial amount is set at 50% of the estimated market value, EMV, of the bonus GFA they've been granted.
50% of the value, that's significant.
It is. This guarantee needs to be valid for 3 years from the projected TTOP date. It gets released once BCA confirms all the ITM requirements have been successfully met.
And if they don't meet the requirements, what happens then?
If they fail to deliver on the promised ITM outcomes, they are liable for a termination sum, which is equal to 100% of the estimated market value of the bonus GFA. The security deposit is forfeited towards this sum. So there's a very real financial consequence for not following through. It underlines that this bonus GFA is conditional on actually achieving the transformation goals.
Okay, high reward, but high responsibility. Makes sense for a scheme trying to drive real change. Hashtag 3.3 District Cooling System, DCS, or Centralized Cooling System, CCS scheme. All right, moving from overall transformation to something specific. Cooling. Let's talk about the District Cooling System, DCS, or Centralized Cooling System, CCS scheme. This sounds like it's about sharing aircon, basically, but on a massive scale.
That's a good way to think about it. This scheme aims to encourage building owners to connect to shared cooling networks, either by helping establish new ones or by tapping into existing DCS networks, like the one at Marina Bay, for example.
Why do that? What's the benefit?
The big benefit is energy efficiency and sustainability. Instead of every single building having its own large, potentially inefficient chiller plant running, you have a central, highly efficient plant serving multiple buildings. This drastically reduces energy consumption, carbon emissions, and often frees up space within individual buildings.
Okay, makes sense environmentally. So what's the incentive? How does bonus GFA come into this? Let's start with the building that hosts the main cooling plant.
Right, the host developments.
Mhm.
These buildings need to set aside quite a bit of space for the large-scale equipment, the chiller plant itself, cooling towers, maybe thermal energy storage tanks, electrical infrastructure.
So they sacrifice some of their own space for the network.
Exactly. To compensate for this, the M&E, mechanical and electrical spaces, needed specifically to support the DCS-CCS network can be computed as bonus utility GFA. This is on top of the site's normal master plan GFA.
Bonus GFA for the host. Is it free GFA?
It might be subject to land betterment charge, LBC, depending on the specifics, but it allows them to accommodate the plant without sacrificing their primary GFA. Also, if the host building originally had its own chiller plant space, an IBCP in-building chiller plant that was counted as GFA, they can potentially recompute that old space as bonus utility GFA, freeing up the original GFA for other uses, like more office space or amenities.
Ah, so they can potentially gain usable GFA back.
Yes, or if their original IBCP space was already GFA exempt, they might still get bonus GFA equivalent to its size. It's designed to make hosting the central plant attractive.
Okay, clear benefits for the host. What about the buildings that just connect to the network, the receiving developments? Do they get anything?
Yes, there are incentives for them too, especially for existing buildings undergoing addition and alteration, A&A works, to connect. If they decommission their old existing IBCP space,
Get rid of their own chillers.
right, if that old chiller space was counted as GFA, the owner gets flexibility. They can either convert that space right there in situ into something else like a meeting room or storage, or they can potentially decant that GFA, meaning transfer its equivalent area to build something else elsewhere in the building.
So they reclaim that space.
Exactly. And if their old IBCP space was already GFA exempt, they might be allowed bonus GFA equivalent to the size of the space they decommissioned. Again, any proposed new uses for this freed up or bonus GFA could be subject to LBC. Plus, any small M&E spaces they need just for the connection itself, like a heat exchanger room, can often be counted as bonus utility GFA too.
So incentives all around to join the Cool Kids network. But surely there are rules. Can any building just claim this?
Definitely rules and restrictions. Firstly, this scheme is not retroactive. If a building is already connected to a DCS-CCS, they can't suddenly apply for this bonus GFA.
No back claiming.
Right. Also, it doesn't apply if connecting to a DCS-CCS is already mandatory for that building, for instance, if it was a specific requirement in the land sale conditions for a GLS site. You don't get a bonus for doing what you were told you had to do anyway.
Fair enough. Any other major restrictions maybe for older buildings wanting to connect?
Yes, there's an interesting one for receiving developments wanting to connect to an existing network. They generally need to meet one of two conditions. Either the building was approved before the network in their area became operational,
So it wasn't an option back then.
or the building must be at least 10 years old, based on its TLP date.
10 years old. Why that specific age?
The rationale is based on the typical lifespan of an in-building chiller plant system, which is around 10-15 years. They want to discourage owners from prematurely ripping out relatively new functional chiller systems just to get the bonus GFA. The idea is to encourage connection as part of a natural planned chiller replacement cycle for buildings older than 10 years.
Promoting sensible asset management alongside sustainability. Clever. What kind of paperwork is involved?
Developers need to provide detailed plans showing the network, identifying the service provider, clearly marking the M&E spaces involved. Hosts need to show capacity assessments. Receivers need to show how they'll use any freed up or bonus GFA. It's about demonstrating a clear, workable plan for joining or hosting the cooling network. Hashtag 3.4 Central Business District CBD Incentive Scheme.
Okay, we've talked broad transformation, district cooling. Let's zoom right into the heart of the city now, the Central Business District, the CBD. There's a specific incentive scheme just for the CBD, right, to keep it lively.
Yes, the CBD Incentive Scheme. This is a really interesting one, strategically focused on the future of Singapore's downtown core.
What's the main goal here?
The big objective is to encourage the rejuvenation of the CBD, specifically by incentivizing owners of older, predominantly office buildings to redevelop them into vibrant mixed-use projects.
Mixed use meaning not just offices.
Exactly. The scheme strongly encourages adding hotel and residential components alongside commercial uses. The vision is to transform the CBD from just a 9-to-5 office district into a lively 247 neighborhood where people live, work, and play.
Injecting life after dark and on weekends. Smart. So what's the carrot for developers to do this?
It's a very attractive carrot. Developers participating can potentially get up to 25% additional GFA.
25%. Wow, that's a huge boost in the CDD.
It's very significant, yes. On top of that, there's potential for a reduction in the development charge, DC payable, which can be a massive cost saving. And the scheme offers greater flexibility on land use, possibly allowing changes of use without needing to pay extra DC, subject to conditions, of course.
Okay, 25% GFA, potentially lower DC, more flexibility. That sounds like a powerful package. Which parts of the CBD does this apply to?
It's targeted at specific streets within the older parts of the CBD, areas like Anson Road, Cecil Street, Shenton Way, Robinson Road, and Tanjung Pagar. Areas identified as having potential for this kind of transformation.
So how does the developer get their hands on this? I imagine it's not automatic.
Definitely not automatic. It requires a formal application process. Developers need to submit a written proposal to URA.
What goes in the proposal?
It has to be pretty detailed. It needs to outline the proposed redevelopment, including the mix of uses, provide information on project costs, expected financial returns, and very importantly, articulate how the project will contribute positively to making the CBD a more vibrant, mixed-use district. There's also a non-refundable application fee, around SGD $5,000 currently.
And URA decides based on that.
URA evaluates the proposal carefully, looking at its quality, its contribution to the CBD's transformation goals, its economic viability. They might consult other agencies and can impose specific conditions if they approve it. It's about ensuring the projects genuinely deliver on the scheme's objectives.
I vaguely remember reading somewhere that an older bonus scheme near MRT stations was being phased out, and the CBD scheme was kind of stepping in for central area rejuvenation. Is that right?
You're recalling correctly. The URA Draft Master Plan 2019 did signal the removal of an older bonus plot ratio, BPR scheme, that primarily encouraged intensifying commercial developments near certain MRT stations. The CBD incentive scheme is different. It's specifically targeted at converting older office buildings into mixed-use developments within defined CBD areas, offering that plot ratio increase as the incentive. So less about general intensification near transport, more about strategic targeted transformation of the CBD's building stock and usage patterns.
Got it. Specific goal, specific tool. Hashtag 3.5 Strategic Development Incentive, SDI scheme. So, sticking with this theme of strategic transformation, there's one more big scheme, the Strategic Development Incentive, or SDI scheme. This sounds even broader than the CBD scheme.
It is broader in its geographical scope, yes. The SDI scheme is designed to encourage the comprehensive redevelopment of strategically important sites anywhere in Singapore, not just the CBD.
Strategic sites. What makes a site strategic in URA's eyes?
It's about sites that can make a significant contribution to Singapore's long-term economic or social development goals, or sites that can act as catalysts for positive change in their surrounding area. Think major gateway sites, areas undergoing significant precinct-level transformation, or sites that can pilot innovative development concepts.
So projects with a bigger impact than just the site itself.
Exactly. URA looks for proposals that offer comprehensive redevelopment and are bold and innovative. It's for projects that are truly transformative.
And what kind of incentives are on offer for these bold strategic projects?
The SDI scheme offers a powerful mix of incentives, potentially tailored to the specific project. This can include a significant increase in the gross plot ratio, permission for greater building heights, a larger allowable GFA, and crucially, substantial flexibility on other planning controls that might normally apply.
Flexibility, like relaxing rules on setbacks or site coverage?
Potentially, yes, among other things. It allows URA to enable really innovative or complex proposals that might not fit neatly within standard guidelines. There might also be a reduction in the development charge, DC, as part of the package. It's a toolkit for enabling major game-changing projects.
Sounds amazing for a developer with a big vision. How does one even start the process for SDI? It must be quite selective.
Highly selective, yes. The process usually starts with a pre-application consultation with URA. This is crucial for developers to sound out their initial ideas and get feedback on whether the site and proposal might even qualify as strategic and innovative enough for the scheme.
So an early reality check.
Pretty much. If the initial feedback is positive, the next step is submitting a very detailed development proposal. This needs to go way beyond standard plans, really articulating the strategic vision, the innovation, the benefits to Singapore, the quality of the design, and its overall impact.
And URA evaluates this based on...
They evaluate based on a range of criteria,
Yeah.
the strategic importance of the site, the level of innovation and quality in the proposal, its potential economic and social contributions, and its positive impact on the urban environment. Input from other relevant government agencies is often sought too, given the strategic nature of these projects. It's a rigorous assessment for potentially very significant planning concessions.
So SDI is really for the landmark projects, the ones that aim to reshape a part of the city.
That's a good way to capture it. It's for developments that align with and significantly advance Singapore's national strategic objectives through bold urban transformation. Hashtag tag tag outro.
Phew. Okay, that was quite a journey we took today.
It certainly was. We covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, from the absolute basics, the bedrock of plot ratio and GFA, then navigating URA's harmonization rule for consistency,
But getting everyone on the same page for calculations.
and then diving into that really fascinating world of bonus GFA schemes, the BE transformation, pushing for better building methods.
Right. Digitalisation, productivity, sustainability.
The DCS-CCS scheme for smarter, greener cooling.
Sharing the load, quite literally.
The CBD incentive breathing new life into downtown.
Making it a 247 hub.
And finally, the SDI scheme for those really big, bold, strategic moves across the island.
Yeah, the game changers.
You know, listening back, these aren't just like boring rules and regulations, are they? They're actually the tools Singapore uses to actively shape its future skyline, its environment, and yes, they absolutely influence a developer's bottom line and a property's potential.
They absolutely are dynamic tools. And for everyone listening, especially you RES exam candidates, really internalizing these concepts, understanding the details and the why behind them, it's just so critical.
Critical for the exam.
Absolutely critical. These topics aren't just definitions to memorize. They show up in scenario questions. They test your understanding of how policy directly shapes development, value, and opportunity in the real world. Knowing these schemes, the caps, the conditions, the GFA calculations, it lets you analyze properties like a professional.
Gives you that deeper perspective.
Exactly. It gives you a real competitive edge, not just in the exam room, but out there in the market too. You can see beyond the surface, understand the true potential or limitations of a site.
It's about being able to read the story the regulations tell about a piece of land, isn't it? Why one site is more valuable, why a developer made certain choices.
Precisely. It's about connecting policy to practice. The RES exam tests that application of knowledge. Can you use these concepts to solve a problem, assess a situation? That's the goal.
So, looking ahead, Singapore's always transforming, always innovating. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What might future incentive schemes look like?
That's a great thought.
Could we see schemes encouraging, I don't know, AI-driven construction or maybe vertical farms integrated into buildings or totally new ways of living in dense environments?
It's certainly possible. As challenges like climate change and urban density evolve, the policy tools will likely evolve too.
And what new opportunities could that create for sharp, knowledgeable real estate professionals like hopefully everyone listening who's armed with this kind of dip dive knowledge? Something to think about.
Definitely food for thought. Staying ahead of the curve, understanding these mechanisms, that's key to a successful career in Singapore real estate.
Well, thank you so much for diving deep with us today on ACE, your RES exam key topic deep dive series.
My pleasure.
We really hope this exploration of plot ratio and all those GFA incentives has helped clear things up and maybe even spark some new insights for you.
Hopefully demystified some complex topics.
Go out there, keep studying, review these points, and absolutely smash those exam questions. Good luck with your upcoming RES exam.
Yes, all the very best. You've got this.